Welcome to Indie Shorts Mag's Frame by Frame, where we dive deep into the creative minds behind independent cinema. Today, we're thrilled to have with us Emanuel Ramirez, a multifaceted filmmaker whose journey from actor to director has been nothing short of inspiring. Emanuel Ramirez is the creative force behind the short film Same Page and its accompanying documentary of the same name. His work explores the intricate dynamics of relationships, the impact of generational trauma, and the power of vulnerability in storytelling. In this interview, Emanuel takes us behind the scenes of his creative process, sharing insights on how his background in acting influences his directing style, the challenges of documenting one's own work, and the delicate balance between personal reflection and professional growth in filmmaking. Join us as Emanuel Ramirez opens up about the unexpected turns in his filmmaking journey, the lessons learned from wearing multiple hats in the industry, and his vision for future projects. Whether you're an aspiring filmmaker or a cinema enthusiast, this conversation promises to offer valuable insights into the art of independent filmmaking and the power of authentic storytelling. Let's dive into our conversation with Emanuel Ramirez and explore the frames that make up his unique cinematic vision.
What's funny about that, it was never supposed to be what it turned out to be. The initial idea was getting the team people to just follow me around as I was going to the premiere of the film, and hopefully a nice clip will come out of that to market the film and the whole experience. But it really changed after the premiere. When we sat down to look at the footage and to look at everything, when we started looking at the Q&A in particular, was really what changed my mind when I saw the questions being asked and the responses, and it just got my head clicking like, okay, there's something more here that people could take something away from, plus the film. And then that just got my ears going like, oh wow, there's something here for everyone to see, for everyone to learn, for people to relate to. And that's really what initiated the entire process. And once we had the second premiere come up, and then I had this one-man show, it all just kind of folded into, okay, wow, there's a real story in here that could be documented and told in a creative way. So that's really how it changed over time. It really, first, what I got out of it was how connected we all are. Because I got to hear not only my point of view on it, but seeing everyone else's point of view from the cast and the individual interviews. It lets you know how these things affect everyone. And that was really surprising to see and to hear. And being able to really dig into the subject, it broadened my awareness of how these things affect people. Some people it motivates them, some people it never makes them feel worthy. Other people don't know how to get out of the pattern. Some just keep passing it on. So there was all these different takes that people take away from it. And one that stood out to me personally was how you don't have to be defined by something like that happened to you. How you can still reprogram yourself, reparent yourself was a word that came up in the documentary a lot. And that was something that for me personally was gratifying, because it was like, we don't have to be identified by these things. You can choose to still steer another way. You can choose to remake yourself and not just keep repeating what you know and what you've seen and how you grew up. So that was really gratifying to see. I mean, I was really surrounded by really good people, a really good team. But I always go back to being in the editing room was probably like the greatest creative fun I've ever had. And it just taught me how a lot of times if you just get out of the way, if you don't just try to muscle through things and try to aim for a result and try to get to the thing, and you just let the process unfold and you just sit there with it, the things that'll come out of it are things sometimes that you couldn't envision. And that's really what I saw with how creativity works. You can't muzzle it and try to aim it and you just sit there with it, and these ideas just kind of flow. There was many times that we were just kind of flowing, and at the end of it, I'd be going home like, oh my God, I wasn't even aiming to come with this idea. It just presented itself based on how we allowed each other to create. So being in that process really showed me how much less is more, and to embrace more of the process of things, not trying to get to the result of it. So it just reinforced that mindset in me that I'm gonna have forever. For me, it's really the only way that I know how to approach anything. Which what I mean is, if I'm acting in a scene, the way that I've been taught to figure it out is you put yourself in a scene and try to make it as personal as possible. And in that, you find what the moments want to be. So when I moved over to directing something or writing, it was the same approach to me. To me, they're all one thing. I put myself in circumstances and I see what my instrument wants to say. And out of that, I always find a truthful place. If we were listening to a song, I remember many times trying to figure out what a moment wanted to be. I would just let the song kind of guide me and show me, no, this wants to be this. It could be at one time something we thought was gonna be happy, and then it was like, no, this wants to be more vulnerable. This wants to go deeper, or something that was deeper. No, this wants to be lighthearted. But to me, it all starts by putting my instrument in that place, living it. And then out of that, I sense choices that make sense. So to me, it's the only way that I know how to work, by putting my instrument in the circumstance and see what comes out of that. It's something that you always struggle with when you see yourself really being vulnerable in moments. One moment in particular in the documentary, I remember we were trying to figure out, and the way we figured out this moment was by adding an effect that would really slow things down. And it did something once we watched it back. Once we watched it back, it was like looking at myself really living what I was saying, and it was like I became the example of what I was talking about. And seeing yourself, you're always gonna go like, man, I'm really putting it out there, but that's also how you know you're telling a story, something truthful. Because that's the truth. When you're dealing with topics like this, you can't, to me, half-ass it. You can't come from a place of generalizing. You have to put yourself in them in order for people to relate, because that's how people can go, yeah, I've been there. It's because you're laying it all out there and you're living what you're saying, as opposed to just talking about an example of something you've never been through. So that's my job, whether I'm acting in it, writing it, or directing it, is to get to a truthful place and expose it and let it have its own freedom and feel safe enough to express itself to the highest extent. So this was something that in this one let me know that I was in the right path, even more so, and to be bold and take risks and embrace choices that may not have felt comfortable, but ultimately you look back at it and go, yeah, I'm speaking a real truth here that hopefully will also impact others. I would say that the film asks a lot of questions, especially with the ending. It's kind of an ambiguous ending to leave people thinking. And the documentary answers those questions. That's what I see as the difference with the two. The documentary goes deeper in a way we just couldn't with the film. It afforded us the time to sit down with each topic and get opinions and get different points of view. So that's really the difference between the two. And when I look at them, they're not the same story. I feel like the film's telling one story and the documentary is telling another story. And that was something that I really loved, because even though they have quote unquote the same title, when you look at them, you go, these are two completely different stories. And that's what really led me to know, because if we were just to make the same story over again, just extend it for an hour, I don't think I would have been maybe as excited by it. But seeing the possibilities, and particularly like the ending of the doc, it really made me feel like, oh wow, this is like a whole other feeling to it, while exploring these themes that we set out that are very serious and vulnerable and makes people think and have conversations. We were able to give it another spin. So that was something that I'm really proud of. I feel like they go with each other pretty well, because they can push the other one to another level. Even if we were to make, let's say, a documentary first, if you were just to see the documentary, you would get so many ideas on making a film about it. With each of these topics, it wouldn't have to be all of them, but if you were just to grab one theme, whether it was generational traumas, let's say, out of that, you'd be able to make a whole story. You'd be able to make a whole series out of it, and showing it different ways and showing it in different characters and how it affects everyone, because not everyone's affected the same way by any of these things. We all respond in our own way, which is what makes us all great, individuals. So they spark creativity in their own way. If you just watch the film, you would get the idea like I did, like, okay, maybe there's more to say here. And then it comes down to how you as a filmmaker see it. Do I just want to talk about what going through heartbreak is like? Do I just want to talk about what being in a relationship is like, and communication and what goes into it, and being in a long-term relationship in particular, and what that does to you the more you're into it? So I feel like they complement each other very well and can spark creative ideas in a very genuine way. So I see them more as a spark of that fire that could get your mind going, like, okay, yeah, maybe there's a story here for me to write or create or film or document. So I think they complement each other very well. I think for me, as always, seeing how much people see themselves in the characters. That's something that really touched me. When someone goes, "Oh man, I've been there. Oh my God, yeah, that same thing happened to me." It's like the ultimate goal of anyone that's creating anything, for other people to support it, and then to go, wow, I felt that. When I saw that, I was going through this thing, and I feel that, and I've been there. So that's something that is the most gratifying and the most unexpected, because it's not something that I thought about. In particular for me, it was really the character of Jennifer, and hearing all the different women that related to it and took something away from it. That was something that I never even thought about. So hearing that was the most unexpected and the most gratifying, and it makes me feel so excited to see when people see this and what do they take away from it, because it's obviously a documentary, so you get to really sit down with these ideas and expand. So I would say that's the most unexpected thing for me. I think it allowed me to really feel more confident in the process of things, because it's the only way to work, not only in making films, but really in your life. The more that I think about it, the more I dig into it, is everything should be a process-focused mindset. Not getting to the result of it or aiming to get to the result, but what does someone who does this to the highest level look like? What do they do? What are their habits? What do they do on a daily basis? Not trying to get the award, but what does someone who got the award do? What's their work ethic? How do they move? How do they use their resources? And getting a team around you that believes that. And getting yourself a safe system that you can really express yourself in a good way. And this was all something that kind of happened to me by accident. Originally, I just wanted to act. And I wrote this film. And everything that came after it because I made the film and I was the only one who was gonna get it going. But that's how serendipity kind of works a lot, because then that now led to this, and then this is gonna lead to the next project, and then now this is what I love doing. So that's something that all came from artistic growth and embracing those roles once they're in front of you. You start with a calling. And then this calling goes, okay, if you really want to do this, you're also going to have to do this. And you're going to have to do this. And you sitting down with yourself and going, okay, my dream is worth it enough that I'm going to embrace all these things, because I want to be the best that I know I can be. So, yeah. I would say it forced me to dig deeper. I think in the beginning I had more of a surface approach to characters. And particularly once I did the one-man show, because it's just me on stage the whole time playing Jason, the main character in the film. I had to dig deeper into his background. Why is he the way he is? Why does he think that way? What happened to him that made him this way? I had to go back and really see that. And once I did that, it made me personalize the work even more, because I wasn't acting from a place of, oh, it's this guy who was going through this with his girl and his friend did this. No, it was, I grew up this way, my parents did this to me. Me and my girlfriend met like this, and we've been together for this long. It had all this background that made the moments even more truthful. So when it came to writing, it's the same thing. You're not just writing from a general place. You're writing from someone who has a particular point of view based on how they grew up, based on the things they've seen and the things they've been through. So it forced me to, in all of it, dig deeper into the background of the characters to tell a fuller whole story. So it's made me better in the process of understanding all those things. It's a really tough balance, I would think, with anyone, or for me. Because sometimes you can be great with professional and then the personal is kind of lacking. Or you can be great with the personal and then professional is not, because you're not showing up. For me, they enhance each other in a way that I strive for every day. Meaning, it's not enough for me to have this great professional life and your personal life is not where it needs to be. I'm always gonna strive to find that balance of where I can do both really well. That I can have a great professional life and my professional life bleeds into my personal life and the personal life to the professional. I think that's probably one of the hardest things for anyone to be, especially anyone who's ambitious, because you're gonna have to make sacrifices, you're gonna have to make choices. One of the two is gonna suffer from time to time. And a lot of the times, those choices are rough because they're gonna affect your family, your friends, those who love you. But I think clarity is always power, and knowing what it is you really want and how you want to go about getting there. And when you can communicate those things to the people around you, they can then be more understanding. And you also can have people who can pull you back when you need to be pulled back. People who can tell you, hey, you're kind of going too far. Hey, don't forget about this, and then you can take a second to go, okay, maybe I need a breather here, because creativity itself always needs a breather to refresh. But that is probably the biggest challenge in me that I embrace, in that, can I find the balance between these two? Because you also want to be an example of someone who can pull that off, as hard as it is, because we only have so many hours in a day. You take it a day at a time. You plan as best as you can. Structure really helps everything. And good communication with the people around you helps them understand that process. And knowing that it's okay when you mess it up every now and then, as long as you can bring yourself back. I would say the first thing that stands out to me is the love. We really put a lot of love into this, and really made it with those intentions of really telling this genuine story from a place of love, and embracing that. Something that's made from that place. I remember having a conversation with someone when I was in the beginning of my acting journey. I think I was working on a Shakespearean piece about love, and really the essence of it, and saying to myself out loud, I always want to work from this same place forever, from that love, passionate place. And sometimes you can forget that. In the journey, you start off with one intention. As it goes on, things happen, and you can forget why you started. But this documentary is an example of that. It's coming to that essence of really love for the craft, really love for storytelling. So I hope people can sense that, how each of these moments was crafted by people who really love what they do and are really ambitious about it. And I hope that at some time, somewhere, when they're watching it, they can see themselves. They can see themselves in things that they've been through. They can see themselves in things they've maybe seen other people. And maybe they can get a different perspective. Maybe it can broaden their awareness. And instead of maybe judging people who are going through things like this, they can extend a hand. They can have a conversation. They can have more empathy and sit down and, hey, if this is going on, hey, and let's talk about it. Because that always leads to better results in your relationships and better communication and longer lasting friendships, as opposed to putting each other down for what you're going through. Let's talk about it. How do you feel? And then how do I feel? Oh, you've been there? And then once you see someone empathize with you in that way, it makes you feel better, it makes you feel safer, and it makes you feel like you're not alone. So I hope everyone could take that away from this. Probably how curious I am about life and people, and I'm always observing and taking things in. I think anyone who watches these and go, oh, where did that come from? And somehow make their way back to me. they can see that, and how my curiosity always leads me to, ask more questions and get interested in things, and sit down and have those conversations, those unexpected conversations with people, and listen to them. I love getting different points of views and asking, why do you feel that way? What happened? What was there? And I think that's what you can see in both of these projects. It's a very introspective, as well as mixing, because life is never one thing, as well as mixing the funny and mixing the comedy and the humor in it, and this roller coaster of emotions of really good, really happy, you're angry, you're upset, then you're heartbroken, then you're loved, because that's how really life works. It's never just one thing, and I think everyone who sees both of these projects can see that, because that's how I live my life. It's never just one thing, and it's definitely fueled my curiosity and trusted even more, and stick to those bold choices and take those risks and keep questioning, because in questioning, it just kind of sparks your creativity to the next thing, and when you seek those answers, I think it also comes back to you and makes you a better person for finding out whatever you were searching. So I think people will get that with either of these projects, just how curious I am about life. I would say a challenge we faced was, once we had all the footage, it was like, okay, now what? Because it's not like a film. We didn't have a script that we wrote and worked on, and now we're just getting it all together. We really had to sit down and figure out, what is the story being told here? What is the essence of this? What are we trying to say? And we had all this footage to pull from and all these different moments. So that took time, and that took, again, thinking of the process and not the end result of it, because we didn't know where it wanted to go. We didn't know what we were gonna touch on, exactly how we were gonna do it. We just knew there was something there. So in that, it was then day by day, sitting with it, process, not product, and then allowing it to reveal itself. I would say that was probably the most challenging thing, just because you have to allow the process its time to be what it wants to be, not what you're trying to push, or just to do it to put it out. So I would say that was probably the most challenging thing in the documentary. I would say it gave me more artistic confidence, to trust the choices that I see, trust the instincts that are coming out, and to allow myself to step onto things I'm not comfortable with, but trust that once I make those choices and fully commit, the answer will appear. That's really the main thing that I learned in this whole thing, was just get out of the way. You just get out of the way, things show you what they want to be, as opposed to you trying to control and force. And if you can just be dexterous and open and open-minded to listen to people around you, you'll be surprised what you can create, and leave the ego outside of the door. It just gave me a confidence that, yeah, I can do directing. Yeah, I can put a project together. Yeah, I am surrounded by great people. So it really gave me that confidence in myself as an artist to create things, and knowing that not only I, but we all have something to say. We all have stories within us. We all have genius level talent. It's just about finding out what you're good at, trusting it, being bold, and taking risks. And what I want to do next is, which I already started writing, is a feature film that'll be really something that I'm looking forward to in a lot of ways. Writing it, directing it, and I believe it'll all again come together in its own way. If I can just trust it, put in the work, and keep showing up and follow through on what I'm saying, not just saying it, and being disciplined about it. So that's what's gonna be next. Keep showing up. Keep showing up. That's really the main one. Keep showing up and things will happen for you. Don't aim for the result of things. Fall in love with the process. The daily, minute by minute process of making whatever you want to make. Focus on the moment. If you have an idea, cultivate the idea. Water that idea. Start writing it. And trust that you have something to say. Just like we all do. We all have things inside of us that are worth telling, worth embracing. And a lot of times external noise can get in the way of that. Judgment, hey, is this worth it? Hey, what are you doing? Hey, and people who don't understand you. So trust that you have something inside that when people see it, they'll take something away. Trust that you have a voice. Trust that your ambition isn't just ambiguous and oh, there's this weird thing. No, that's probably greatness talking to you. When you feel those things like, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. That's your own greatness talking to you. And you take that step and trust in that into, okay, I'm gonna be bold here and I'm gonna follow this. I don't know where it's gonna lead. I don't know if this is gonna happen, but I'm gonna commit myself 100% to this, and I'm gonna take it as far as I can take it. And in that, you will 100% become a better person. You will become 100% better person, and you'll never regret having committed to something like that you truly love. So that's really something that I would pass on. Keep showing up, and your love will show you the way.